Jacob Schmidt is CEO of Schmidt Partners Research, and he joins me now. Thanks for joining me here on The Pulse. Has the culture of the banking bonus actually changed much, or are big results still giving way to big bonuses?
Number one, banks again are very profitable. We've seen that most recently, part obviously from Ireland in some very specific cases, but in general in Europe and also in the US, banks are very profitable. There's even talk about, you know, dividends being reinstated, for example, at Citibank in the US and so on. But nevertheless, the star cult of bankers and traders has somewhat diminished. People are very critical, critical of what's happening at the banks. And so the public opinion is against them, but on the other hand, they're hugely profitable. So there are two sides to the game.
No, what the banks will always say in defense of big bonuses is if we don't pay a big bonus, then the bankers will simply go elsewhere. They might go to a hedge fund, they might go to an asset management, set up their own company. I mean, if you don't pay bankers the big bonuses, do you lose them?
There's a problem about talent, and there's definitely the risk of talent leaving either banks or moving from one bank to another, or as we heard earlier from your reporter, that they are going to other geographies, for example, Switzerland, the Middle East, and so forth and so on. So there's definitely this risk. There's also the risk that talent would leave banks and would go to hedge funds or to other entities where there's no restriction on bonuses.
Now, that may be compounded by what the European Committee is about to do. If they decide that with 20% limit on cash bonuses, do you think that if you don't have global regulation but you have European regulation that's separate, that will also put more pressure on European banks?
I think definitely you need global regulation. If you don't have global regulation, you're going to see arbitrage immediately, and you see that all the time where companies and banks move their headquarters, move their staff, and so forth and so on. But we're really talking here about the top talent. We're talking about the top 5% of deal makers in mergers and acquisitions, or in trading, or investment banking. We're not talking about the other 95%. It's about these 5%, and these 5% can move. So unless we have a global regulation, it's not going to work. Secondly, these regulations are rather recommendations than hard rules. So I think there are two elements. So one is, as we heard earlier also, is that taxation comes in, which is punitive not just to the recipients of the bonuses, but also to the shareholders. So I'm not quite sure whether I like that. Secondly, the question is whether they can move somewhere else.
Yes.
So we have these two. So we have the tax, and we have the levy on the banks, which is the other one. So the levy on the banks is also quite punitive. So I'm not quite sure whether we all like that. I think the shareholders should also come in and should be asked, and I'm not quite sure to what extent the shareholders are really part of this discussion at the moment.
No, you did mention that it is only the top 5% who can easily move, and also who are getting the really big bonuses. But the bonus pot in the US is something that's up for discussion. It's a huge number, isn't it?
Yeah, apparently $144 billion at the moment discussed to be paid out as either salaries and or bonuses, not just to banks, to financial institutions, and to hedge funds. It's a huge number if we compare that with the losses incurred in 2008 and 2009. So there's an outcry. On the other hand, it's a discussion of talent. What is the value of talent, and how do you retain them?
Will there continue, do you think, to be this huge outcry, which is completely understandable from people who are facing very austere times when they look at these vast bonuses, but yet nothing really changes? Or are we genuinely going to see any form of actual change where bankers start earning money that's more comparable to doctors or teachers?
I think bankers will always earn more money, simply because that's the industry. That's how the industry is set up.
Will they earn 10, 20, 30 times more?
That could be. That will continue, because I think if we're in favor of that, the regulators missed the opportunity in 2008 and 2009. Governments missed the opportunity when they had to bail out the banks. They did not come in and did not set the rules because they were afraid of losing people and so on. And there's always the risk of losing people, but other people are coming after that. There there's always young people who would come in for a little bit less. So they missed this opportunity, and we're seeing already, in terms of generational change, younger people coming up who would do it for a little bit less. Still for more than the doctors and the lawyers, but not for 10 times, perhaps for 5 times the multiple.
Okay. Jacob Schmidt, thank you very much
Pleasure.
indeed.